It's Friday, August 5. In the headlines, a special sitting of Parliament to mark Jamaica 60. Regionally, St. Lucia students to learn their history and native language. Internationally, in the UK, 2 million people are suffering from long COVID. And in sports, West Indies versus India in the T20 International Series. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I am Simone Absalom Gill. A joint sitting of the Senate and the House of Representatives is to be held in commemoration of the 60th anniversary of Jamaica's independence at Gordon House today, August 5 at 2 p.m. A delegation from Namibia is in Jamaica to celebrate the nation's 60th anniversary of independence, and they will be special guests at the joint sitting. The group is headed by a minister in the presidency of Namibia, Christine Huebes. His Excellency Sir Patrick Allen, Governor-General of Jamaica, is expected to address the House. The Governor-General represents the Queen on ceremonial occasions such as the opening of Parliament, the presentation of honours, and military parades. Sir Patrick Allen was appointed Governor-General of Jamaica on February 26, 2009. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says the Spanish Town Hospital in St. Catherine will be redeveloped next year. Ground is to be broken in the first quarter of 2023. He told the press recently that sections of the 6-story building will be reconstructed. He's quoted saying, "We're going to clear an entire site, so there are going to be some dismantling of existing buildings and infrastructure, the removal of some services, the pharmacy, for example, and you're basically creating a greenfield site," end quote. Jamaica will mark its Independence Diamond Jubilee celebration on Saturday, August 6. Just about 30,000 spectators are expected at the Grand Gala being held to mark the occasion at the National Stadium. Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport Olivia Grange had announced in the House of Representatives on July 26 that the cultural showcase, which is slated to begin at 6 p.m., will feature presentations in music, drama, song and dance by costumed and uniformed groups alongside popular local artists. Jamaica is celebrating 60 years of social and economic development. We are making strides in education, agriculture, foreign trade, tourism, sports, and of course, music. The country has crafted at least 5 known genres of music, and some academics can list more. In this 2-part feature, we take a look at Jamaica's musical journey and how it coincides with Jamaica 60. Jamaica might be described as a small island on the international scale, but it has had a remarkable impact on global culture, thanks in large part to a legacy of musical innovation, from mento to ska, reggae and dub to dancehall. Jamaica's musical journey is just as dynamic, passionate and colorful as its social and economic journey. In fact, you could say one has mirrored the other in the last 60 years. Herbie Miller is the Institute of Jamaica's musical director and curator for the Jamaica Music Museum. He describes music as an integral part of Jamaican culture.
Mento is really a 19th century music, but its greatest popularity came in the mid to late 50s. But the banjar, strum, which was discussed by Sir Hans Sloane in his visit to the Caribbean with an illustration, is the first prototype of what we know today as the banjo, which is a primary instrument in mento music. But following emancipation, when Jamaicans went to places like Costa Rica, Cuba, Venezuela, among other places, one of the things that came back out of that experience was the marimba box found in those countries. When it came back here, if you know Jamaica changed up the name of everything, they didn't name the marimba box anymore. It became the rumba box, because they saw it in Cuba and this and rumba people. So they was called a rumba box, and introduced that to the mento music. Mento really got popular in places across the nation, like nine nights, wakes. In fact, they even call it, sometimes they call it duppy band. And at, again, fairs, garden parties, all over the island, you're going to find the rumba.
In the late 50s, early 60s, Jamaicans began to develop their own identity in the socio-political sphere, and the local music illustrated that social rhetoric. One such topic was whether or not Jamaica would remain in the West Indies Federation in the late 1950s.
There were a lot of songs about that. Lord Lara, who was a Trinidadian, he came to Jamaica, and he stayed in Jamaica until this day, married and became a Jamaican, like Lord Creator I just mentioned, among others. And Lord Lara had a song say, that song about it, and talk about, this is the Labour Party had their symbol was the bell. So when they come out on the street and meetings and all that, you hear the bell. So he had the song saying, the bell, the bell, the bell. And when you hear them saying, no, 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 federation, no. But when you listen to man, he ain't talking so. Him want federation. Federation, no. But when I listen to man, he ain't shouting so.
In 1958, Jamaica became a founding member of the West Indies Federation, a group of Caribbean islands that formed a unit within the Commonwealth. However, in 1960, the Jamaica Labour Party, JLP, under Sir Alexander Bustamante, pressed for secession from the Federation. A referendum in 1961 supported their views.
Federation, no. But when I listen, man, he ain't shouting so.
In 1962, Jamaica achieved independence. The whole country erupted in celebration. Mr. Miller remembers being a part of the jubilation.
On the street, looking at Stennet Kirk rooms wrapped in a Jamaica flag from head to toe, walking from Beaumont Gardens all through Windward Road, all the way to East Queen Street, all the way to downtown Kingston, to just be a part of and enjoy. Derek Morgan had a song called Forward March. Alti Joe had a song called Rise Up Jamaica. Jamaica is on the move, that little, so rise up, Jamaica rise up. And then there's another song by Lord Creator, said Jamaica gain independence and everybody happy. And he told the story of how that came along.
Spirits were high on Tuesday night as viewers were given a blast from the past with JA60 Old School Dancehall Original Dancehall Style at the National Stadium with the likes of Josie Wales, Admiral Bailey, Little John, Peter Metro, Junior Cat, Lone Ranger, Major Mackerel and others. Here are some highlights from the event.
This song is super. Sin.
Mercy, what is that one here? Big up my virgin called Merciless, gone. Big up Mighty Diamonds, gone. Yeah.
We're gonna rock it tonight.
Oh, hallelujah, when I love her so right. Bim! Beyond a mountain, said there lies a valley. Beyond a valley, said there lies a sea. Beyond the sea, there lies my baby. I said her name is Rosemary, Rosemary. Oh, no, I would never let you go.
Lord, after me went to a dance a Clarendon, me had a big fat thing named Pam. Rastas me reach at the dance gate. The gate man a hold on pa me open hand.
No, sir!
Peter Mitch, what?
Do you know what it means to have a way?
Me tell you no, you know.
And what it takes to make us.
Over the man as a Peter Mitch,
fighting against the pressure.
East! And I must say greetings to all the people who turn out tonight, who come celebrate Jamaica 68.
Sit a go hang them, say them lock the world and now the band and rise again. Straight through the gate, non-stop me gone again. Some man a wear tight pants. Me want them a me illusion get the best of them. So if you pick me up, you lick me down, my bounce right back. Should I know by now, me's a hard nut to crack. I'm the old veteran, me still a launch the attack. I'm the cream of the crop and I am the recallish trap. From a Kangal hat to me diamond socks. From the chain round me neck to me Rolex watch. When me touch pan the black, them say me have the city lock.
Run it again. Big up yourself. I see some people. Listen me, man. I take out them phone. Lord Trooper. Who not have iPhone? Who not have Samsung? You know what kind of phone me love? Me say if you know what kind of phone Peter Mitch love. What kind of phone? Hit name, give me banger phone. Me love me mama phone. Give me the granny phone. Me love me mama phone. Give me banger phone. It's not a scammer phone. Me love the banger phone. It's a me mama phone.
My baby come and knock in my door and I know. Oh yes I know. Huh. Hallelujah when I love her so. Wow! Play Monday bounce sound so you get around and don't the king sound of blues. Please another know that you could never refuse. Lone Ranger is the name of the game. You're the one I'm to be on the station.
Time now for the business report with Danita Rodney.
Alliance Financial Services Limited has entered into an agreement with Unicomer Jamaica that will see its agent network expanded by almost 50%. The partnership will allow MoneyGram customers to pick up their money transfers at court stores island-wide. CEO of Alliance Financial, Omar Brown, says the company is excited about the new development as it provides their clients with additional locations to conveniently collect their money. Brown also shared that more is in store for AFSL as the company continues to strengthen and improve its services island-wide. JMMB Group Limited has acquired Banco Multiple Bell Bank in the Dominican Republic as it deepens its presence in the Spanish-speaking nation of 10.85 million people. The acquisition is a part of the group's regional diversification strategy. Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Thursday, August 4, the US dollar sold for an average of $153.69. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $119.68. The pound sterling traded for $185.41, and the euro sold for an average of $159.58. The following reflects the movement of the JSE indices in Thursday's trading session. The JSE index advanced by 480 points to close at over 300,000 units. The junior market index advanced by 19 points to close at over 4,000 units. The combined market index advanced by 625 points to close at over 300,000 units. And the All Jamaican Composite Index advanced by 543 points to close at over 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 112 stocks, of which 49 advanced, 43 declined, and 20 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Verbal Preference, Virgil Paints Jamaica Limited, and Blue Power Group Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, 1834 Investments Limited, and Access Financial Services Limited. Trading firm were Siboney Group Limited, Epley 7.50% preference shares due 2024, and Epley Caribbean Property Fund Limited SCC. The following companies represent the overall volume leaders: SSL Venture Capital Jamaica Limited with over 61 million units, Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares with over 9 million units, and JMMB Group Limited 7.35% cumulative redeemable preference shares with over 3 million units. In regional stocks in Trinidad and Tobago, Zero securities were traded. Zero securities were also traded on the Barbados Stock Exchange. Guyana's President Dr. Efren Ali is urging policymakers and advisors across the Latin America and Caribbean region to be realistic about renewable energy ambitions, as they do not yet possess the much-needed funds to move away from fossil fuels to using renewable energy such as solar energy.
$16 billion US. That is what the renewable energy market in CARICOM is estimated at. $16 billion. CARICOM investment to get to our renewable targets and to unlock this potential would require an investment of $11 billion US over the next 10 years. This is the reality. When we talk about moving to the renewable, that's the investment that is required over the next 10 years. $11 billion US. I don't know which CARICOM country is going to tell us that in their budgetary framework, we are budgeting for this. Now what is the commitment? The reality is that it's investment that is needed, but we made a commitment. CARICOM commitment is that 47% of our power will come from renewable source by 2027. The reality is that we must answer the issue of affordability. How affordable is solar energy? Who is it affordable for? Who owns the technology? Why is the technology so important today? Is solar energy a market-driven force, or is it a social good? How do we determine that? How do we apply the technology? Who owns the patent? These are important questions that the developing world must sit down and answer also.
In market data for oil prices stayed near their lowest levels since February as concerns over a possible recession and a fall in fuel demand continue to rattle markets. Brent crude rose 37 cents to $94.49 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate crude was up 27 cents at $88.81. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, we begin with St. Lucia. Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre is intent on ensuring students learn about St. Lucia's history, its cultural heritage, and indigenous language in school.
The Ministry of Education in the last 12 months has advanced its plans to introduce St. Lucia's indigenous Creole language in public schools throughout the island. Prime Minister Honorable Philip J. Pierre, speaking at the inaugural Dance and Drum Juve spectacle, which formed part of official commemorative activities for St. Lucia's Emancipation Day observers on August 1st, espoused his vision to have St. Lucian history also included in the national school curriculum.
The events this year are more than just a long overdue commemoration of Emancipation Day. They are the enkindling of a movement for the comprehensive education of our people in their history and cultural heritage, so that this knowledge can inspire their values and aspirations and underpin their path to development. As I have said before, this means that this government will embark on initiatives to teach our St. Lucian children and African history in our schools. We will introduce the teaching of our Creole language in the education system and enact legislation to make Creole an official language of our country.
Honorable Pierre also remains committed to pursuing restorative justice. He has pledged St. Lucia's continued advocacy for and collaboration with the CARICOM Reparations Committee in the ongoing regional push for reparations from the island's former colonial rulers.
Our new celebrations of Emancipation Day are also the revitalization of our participation in the movement for reparations that was denied our ancestors when they were given legal freedom from slavery in 1848, but were not granted compensation for the enslaved labor. As you should know, the plantation owners and slave masters were paid by the British government for the loss of their so-called property, the slaves, but the so-called property received nothing. St. Lucia will continue to work to ensure that this injustice is cured. So let this year's celebration be the rekindling of the hope for a better future for ourselves and for our people.
In Guyana, in the event of any situation that can cause children to return to remote learning, the Minister of Education, Priya Manik-Chand, says those students can be assured that plans are in place to ensure they remain engaged.
Students can rest assured that in the event of any disruptions that plans are in place to ensure they remain engaged. During the Education Ministry's weekly Education Spotlight program, Minister Priya Manik-Chand said the ministry, through its risk management policy launched in 2021, has implemented this precautionary measure.
When COVID hit, we realized this is something we need to immediately develop a system that would be resilient to these types of shocks. So right now, the Ministry of Education, the Guyana Ministry of Education, has in its repository, safe, kept somewhere, worksheets that we could roll out anytime there is any kind of disaster, floods or hopefully never an elections disaster again, any disaster. We could give worksheets immediately. We could print immediately. We have these television shows banked in the cloud. We can push those out immediately.
She explained soon every home will be able to access the Learning Channel, therefore assuring that in the event of any school disruptions, children will remain engaged. The minister said that when the pandemic roared its head in Guyana, the Education Ministry quickly moved to close schools and shifted to remote learning. This move presented a challenge as many communities, especially in the riverine and hinterland areas, could not access digital learning.
We are currently, one of the big things we're doing is trying to make sure every home can access the Guyana Learning Channel and a new radio station dedicated to education called EDU. The Guyana Learning Channel is going to be, for the first time in the history of this country, available to all communities, including Amerindian and hinterland communities, riverine communities. We're giving to every village a television set, solar power, and satellite that the government bought and is installing. And by the end of this year, all our communities will have it.
While not specific to only COVID-19, the new policy was born out of the realization that the country, like many others, was not ready for the disruption brought on by the pandemic. This national risk management policy, a first of its kind, is a response to such an event, including disasters such as fires, oil spills, drought, pollution, pandemics, and other natural and human-made hazards that constantly threaten the stability of the education system all across the world.
In Belize, 55 students have been awarded scholarships through the Social Security Board. According to SSB Director Marcelo Blake, this amounts to a payout of over $4 million.
55 students from across the country are being awarded scholarships by the Social Security Board. These are high school, associate degree, and vocational technical students. Today, 37 of those recipients gathered inside the House of Culture in Belize City for an official award ceremony.
The program started in 2001 with the vision to provide opportunities to those wanting to develop themselves but unable to do so due to financial constraints. SSB has assisted over 1,000 students since the inception of the program with an estimated payout of over $4 million. This year, we received 268 online applications from all over the country via our website on the scholarship portal.
Each recipient was selected based on their financial need and their ability to maintain grades above 80%.
In international news, the latest figures in the UK show that almost 2 million people are suffering from long COVID. Medical experts say it is a global problem, and governments must make the same effort to combat the long-term illness as they did to fight the original outbreak. Long COVID patients say there is no effective treatment, only treatments for specific symptoms, leaving them with a condition that affects their daily lives.
The pandemic that changed the world and is still affecting hundreds of millions of lives. Yet out of those who recovered from infection, a number succumb to another phenomenon, post-COVID syndrome. Like the majority of those diagnosed with long COVID, Shaney Wright wasn't hospitalised. Yet 2 years on, a lack of understanding about post-COVID syndrome has left him dealing with a condition that impacts his daily life.
There are no effective treatments for the illness itself. All doctors can try and do is target specific symptoms, but most of the symptoms, they have no treatments. It's also the lack of understanding around the condition. Doctors have very little insight into what the underlying drivers are.
From a personal perspective, dealing with post-COVID syndrome has been a very frustrating experience. It's debilitating and also extremely unpredictable. And even though the relapses become part of day-to-day life, it doesn't make it any easier to deal with, as so many of us can confirm. And while researchers are at the forefront of trying to find a treatment, they say that there needs to be a drastic rethink in how we deal with this on a societal level. Rob McNellis is a physiotherapist helping patients with long COVID and is himself living with the condition. He has seen a rapid rise in those seeking help and knows how it's affecting those who are trying to return to normal life, to their employment, only to relapse through the effort.
They can do things, it's just that the things that they do take a toll on them. It's really about getting people to ease back from the intensity that they're doing, whether it's working different patterns, so that they're maybe working 2 days a week, but they are experts in their field and are paid accordingly, so they're not having the financial hit, because lots of people are feeling that they're really struggling financially now.
Grassroots groups have also been crucial. Journalist Noreen Jamil set up a podcast, The Long COVID Sessions, for patients desperate for support. It's now being used by health practitioners as a source of information.
You know, we're looking at 1 in 5, according to the CDC, of people developing a post-COVID syndrome. That is a massive cohort or long COVID community that are advocating for themselves.
Meanwhile, the increasing numbers are requiring defined strategies, like those put in place at the start of the pandemic, to deal with post-COVID syndrome, while those affected wait for an answer to this mass disabling event.
In sports, the West Indies fell behind once again in their T20 International Series with India after a crushing defeat in Game 3, which was contested at Warner Park in St. Kitts. Kyle Mayers was the only shining light for the Windies on Tuesday, and he spoke to Cricket West Indies media following the match.
The West Indies compiled 164 for 5 in their 20 overs against India, and 73 of those came off the bat of Kyle Mayers. He was the only batter to pass 25 for the home team. But that was not the only reason for his dismay.
It was quite disappointing. I thought the total that we put up was a fighting total. You know, I thought it was competitive total. I just thought that the bowlers didn't really pitch as early as they should. The bowlers from the Indian side explored the conditions well, bowled a lot of cutters into the wicket, which was very difficult to power hit. So we had to assess, you know, and reassess, right, and try to work out and differentiate different shots and stuff to get to the total that we did.
Mayers thought the score was competitive enough to defend, but some inexperience stepped in.
As I said, I thought that we didn't assess the conditions as fast as possible. I think the Indians did it better than us. They bowled a lot of slow balls. If you check back, I thought that they bowled more slower balls and pace on deliveries, which were more difficult to hit on the wicket. I thought our bowlers went more pace on and not pace off. But at the end of the day, it's a learning experience for us. You know, young bowling attack, and hopefully they learn from this.
The adjustment period is short, as the series is set to resume on Saturday in Florida, USA. Wayne Cunningham, TTT Sport.
That's it for the news on PBCJ. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thanks for watching.